is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight, my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. I got a Burger King jingle in my head, and I hate that. Maybe that's why I'm hating Thursday Night Football. Is that's what I remember more than anything is the Whopper song and BK Have It Your Way song, which is just great marketing for them. But that was another Thursday night game in the books. No trade to kind of like divert our attention, but there was enough interesting things to kind of keep our attention.
So Texans hang around for a good chunk of this game. Eventually, we were talking about it right before we started recording. Like, the Eagles are just a lot better than the Texans.
Talent wins
the Eagles have a lot of good players.
Yeah.
This is just one of those games. I remember we talked about this a little bit, I think after maybe the Jags game, when we were discussing the Eagles and how obviously they have AJ Brown and they have stars on defense.
Yeah.
But this is one of those games where you remember that Dallas Goedert and Javon Hargrave and CJ Gardner-Johnson, and their second tier and the second level of players on the Eagles are all still really good NFL players. So in moments like this, you just realize how hard they are to beat, because there are guys 5-6 spots down the call sheet that are going to be able to beat you in some of these moments. And that's incredibly frustrating.
Well, then like the Bradbury interception on like the bad Davis Mills pass, like that's one of those moments where it's one of those things where it's like, that's what good players do. Like every NFL player kind of gets the same opportunities over time if they get enough reps, but the good players actually like take advantage of those opportunities. Like that's an errant throw by the quarterback. Well, it's not just a batted ball or, I came up close. It's no, I actually intercepted that pass. And that's what good players do, is they get there near the ball and they actually do something about it. And you can see that that's what the Eagles kind of do. That's why when they get to those fourth down situations, they just feel inevitable, like, because they just have a plan with everything. And they just have so many good players. And that's why when they attack on offense, and I've talked about this, it's an offense littered with easy buttons, but you can do that when you have such good players. And I'm not dogging the coaches for that. I'm complimenting the coaches when I say that. And then we look at the defense, and that's the thing. They just take their turns. Oh, so-and-so's out, and it's this type of game. Well, I guess Hargrave's gonna, get a couple sacks and just disrupt every pass play. But that's when good teams do. It's a different guy steps up and to make impactful plays.
Let's talk about some of those easy buttons on offense. I want to start with the AJ Brown touchdown. I tweeted a joke about this. Mailata had a bad series. That first series of the second half. The Schwartzes in unison tweeted that it looks like he thought it was a draw on the first sack that he gave up, which makes sense. The second sack, he just got beat. I thought it looked like he was laid out of his stance, and then there was a little bit of a miscommunication. So they had the strip sack in the first half, where Steven Nelson came untouched because they had mistimed the snap and there was miscommunication.
Something happened there.
So he was looking at the ball, and I think they were probably going on some sort of silent count. He was really laid off the snap on that second Jerry Hughes sack. But independent of that, the pass protection for the Philadelphia Eagles is typically pretty damn good. So on this touchdown to AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts has all day to throw this ball. This is why I love the Next Gen Stats feed. Because when you watch this play from the normal broadcast angle, my thought is, man, he had a long time to hang on to that thing. I wonder what was coming open and when. And then I get to look down at my computer after I watch the broadcast, and I see this angle. So he's just got all day to throw this thing. I don't know what the post safety is doing here with AJ Brown. Like, he's just running a crosser all the way across the field. There's nothing else that should be attracting the post safety's attention. And this just becomes an easy touchdown, because Jalen Hurts can sit there in the pocket, see AJ Brown come open, and throw AJ Brown the football.
It's in practice, there's routes on air. And what's great about routes on air is you don't have to move off the launch point. You just take your drop, take your hitch, and throw the ball. And there's also no defenders. This was a true routes on air rep. And the fact that he didn't even get moved off his launch point. Like when he hitched, he just sat there and just wait. And there it comes open. He didn't even throw it like where he let him. It was like, oh, that's open. one Mississippi, and now I'm going to throw it, and it's still wide open. But that's what this offense does. It's littered with those, just left and right, just guys running wide open at every possible time. But that play was like that was a perfect little snapshot of what this Eagles offense could be like. Guys running wide open and just the cleanest pockets you'll ever think of.
He's just hanging out in there. I mean, he's sitting there, he's making an omelet before he throws that ball. It's incredible. Like just the amount of time and comfort he has in the pocket. So let's get to some stuff that's actually a little bit more interesting. Yeah. There was one drive in the second half that there were I think it was back-to-back plays or 2 plays in a 3-play stretch to Dallas Goedert. And it's nothing crazy. No. But it's just a reminder of, again, how many good players the Eagles have. So on the first completion, the Texans are in man coverage, and Goedert is being covered by a linebacker. Yeah. And the way he just snaps him off at the end of this route, he sells it inside, gives him a little head fake, and then breaks it back out. And he's wide open. And Jalen Hurts does a very good job here of getting rid of the ball with pressure in his face because they bring a linebacker late. Yep. So there's a little bit of Jalen Hurts, but there's also Dallas Goedert just roasting a linebacker in space and being open by like 10 yards. Right. So that's, again, just the type of stuff that happens within this offense where, Jalen Hurts makes a pretty nice play, but at the same time, he's got a tight end just cooking somebody in space again. And this is Dallas Goedert, who is the 6th best player on the Eagles offense, maybe?
I mean, Goedert's pretty good. Like
that's what I mean, though.
Yeah. That's what you're saying. That he's
if you were listing them off, right? Yeah. Like you have AJ Brown, Lane Johnson, the left tackle, maybe Jason Kelce. The way that Landon Dickerson is playing, he's like the 5th, 6th, 7th best player on the offense, and he's just like toasting dudes.
There's games where you don't even hear from Devontae Smith, and like Devontae Smith is like legit receiver 1 caliber for some teams. Like that's just what's absurd about this offense. And it's not like one of those where that player didn't get any target. He did get a couple of targets, but he's out of the game. Oh my God, we're going to hear about it all week. What's wrong with this offense? You didn't hear about it. And there's no complaints. It's just like, well, that's because we have these other guys we can give the ball to. And like, I want to talk about too, is that the Goedert screen, like
that was the next play that I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
Here. So let's cue it up and let
it roll. The 20 to 30 yard area is where this Eagles offense loves these screens. But just, I'll let you break this down. But it was just
you break it down. Go ahead.
Oh, no, but it's awesome. Just like Goedert is such a good athlete, and he's so tall. Like he is a tall, lanky athlete, but he moves so well. We talk about a couple times that we have broken down like corner routes, even like he had a couple tonight. He's able to snap things off. And you see on this screen, he's selling that flat route that they run over and over, selling the flat route. So the whole defense outside is like, oh, well, we got to get outside and, not let these guys block us. And then he's able to just snap this off and come inside. That is a real freaky tight end. And he's such a controlled athlete, but that's what they can do that with him because they're creating explosive plays every time they dial up a freaking tight end screen, and they do it all the time. And it doesn't matter because they dress it up so well.
I love the timing
good
on
players
this
in good positions. Yeah.
The timing on the screen is so beautiful. He sells it outside just long enough for their linemen, all of whom can move in space, for them to get downfield. This could have been a bigger play than it even was. If he doesn't get caught from behind and Kelce catches somebody, just go for a touchdown.
They had a couple of those tonight.
This is again just kind of an example to me of, all right, the players are really good. This is a very simple way to put them in a really good spot, and you're pressing easy buttons with really good guys. Dallas Goedert, the Amazon broadcast, put out a stat during the game. Dallas Goedert has caught 11 screen passes this year. He leads the NFL in the amount of screens he's caught and the amount of screen yardage that he has accrued during this season. And that's just one little thing. So outside of having AJ Brown and this run game and what they can do with some of those offensive linemen, you also have a robust screen game to a really good player, and you're just creating easy yardage for your quarterback and for your offense.
And that's what it is. It's the easy yardage. And again, don't want to dog. I'm complimenting what the Eagles offensive staff does, because what they do, even that screen to Goedert and his touchdown, and you can cue this up too, Beller, the touchdown to Goedert as well, was they're basically playing rock, paper, scissors with defenses. And like that screen to Goedert is they're selling the flat, which they do to the tight end sometimes. So they're selling that. And then they have the change up and then the change up off the change up to these plays, rock, paper, scissors. So the split zone RPO, that's why I'll call this play that they do this all the time. And it's so hard to defend because it's easy to defend once. It's hard to defend a dozen times. That's how I'll kind of sum this up, because especially when you have good players. But what they're doing with that split zone is they're reading the DN just like a normal zone read. But instead of a normal split zone, is the tight end works across and kicks out that guy. What this team is doing, and they're not the only team that does this, but what they do so well with it, is other than having good players, is they run it normal, run a split zone. Then they run this RPO off of it. And what Jalen Hurts is doing is reading it just like a normal zone read, but then Goedert leaks out into the flat. And on top of it, they have the two receivers over there running a screen for Goedert. So if that linebacker, whoever's defending Goedert, if they're in zone, they have to bounce it off and bounce off that linebacker to the flat. Even if he reads it out perfectly, he still has to deal with 2 picks. They're running a picket screen for him. And on top of it, even if they do game plan, that guy screams out there, it's still a zone read. Hurts could just hand it off and it could still be a positive play. It's a total damned if you do, damned if you don't type of offense, which it's like, well, why doesn't every team run that? Well, it's usually you don't have this many good players that punish you if you make those mistakes. It's like you run it, it's a 4-yard gain. I know that's near the red zone, but you run it, it's just a nice play. But when you have good players, it's an outstanding play. And they just
it's a short yardage play. They can go off to however they want. They can go to it however often they want to.
However they want.
And you don't have that many teams that have this sort of quarterback run game. Nope. Like they weaponize what he can do in the quarterback run game. This is a play they do in short yardage. It is a short yardage staple for them, and it's why they're so hard to defend in short yardage, because he can do anything out of that. If he wants to run it, he can run it. If they want to hand it off, they can hand it off. They did hand it off, I think, for a touchdown earlier in the game. So just how many different versions of that play that you see, and it's very simple. It's like here's an RPO to the flat. But because there are 3 options on it, it's like, God damn.
Yeah.
Like, what are you supposed to do about that?
And in short yardage is such a specific defense that defenses have. Like they get certain personnel in there. They run only like 2 or 3 calls. And usually a lot of them are man coverage based. So they might, their offensive line can hang with anybody. Like they could dominate anybody. But on top of it, so it's not like they just go, when I was with the Raiders, sometimes to a fault, our head coach at the time would sometimes in short yard situations go, why do we need to do this tricky shit? Let's just line up and go 22, 23 personnel and run it down their throats. And it's like, the defense knows that's what we're doing. So, you got to help your guys out a little bit, but this is what they do. We have a dominant offensive line. We're not just going to run QB sneak every single time, or we're not going to just do a duo run play down your throat every single time. We'll add these wrinkles because it makes the off-ball linebackers, off-ball defenders honest. They have to play their rules. They can't cheat. These are very good players, even if it's the Texans defense. These guys are taught to tee off on things because they're keying on things. But now you're making them play slow. And you already have a physical advantage. Now you're making a mental advantage on top of it. Just good football. That's really what it is.
Yeah, that's as simple as it gets.
It's really good football.
So let's go from the good on the Eagles side to some of the bad on the Eagles side. Texans ran the ball essentially at will today. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a combination of factors. Dameon Pierce is awesome. Like he's just a really fun player. I'm excited to watch him be a running back in the NFL for the next little while here. But I also think that this game was a glaring example of how fragile the Eagles run defense can be, especially without Jordan Davis. So they're in those 5-man fronts without Jordan Davis, whether it's Marvin Williams, names I can't remember here.
I think you're right.
Marvin Williams is just remembering for about Marvin Williams.
Now
I'm getting confusing him with the guy who played for North Carolina back in like 2005, 2006.
The Hawks #2 overall pick.
Marvin Wilson. Yes. Marvin Wilson. I watched North Carolina win that championship live. I went to that Final Four actually with one of my friends. It was very good memory. I was in high school. It was great. We St. Louis, we won tickets in a lottery. Like we just randomly got tickets and we went to the Final Four that year. So I've actually been twice for that, just as a fan. And we went that year and watched North Carolina beat
awesome.
Illinois. It was fantastic. But Marvin Wilson is number 73 for the Eagles. Marvin Wilson is not the sort of run stuffing, zero technique, head up nose that Jordan Davis is. So you had a personnel deficiency and disadvantage compared to what you normally have with the Eagles, because we saw early in the year, they needed to be in those sorts of fronts to stop the run. And it really helps to have Jordan Davis in those fronts. But there were also some design things the Texans did on top of Eagles not having their best guys out there, Dameon Pierce being really good. The GT counter they ran for a huge gain from Dameon Pierce is one of the prettiest plays of the entire day. You explain what's happening here.
Yeah, and they ran this a couple times, and it seemed to me that I'm going to guess that the Eagles have a personnel tell outside of what they line up in the sense that maybe they signal this, because I think it was about 3 times they ran this, and all 3 times the Texans ran a counter play. And why that matters is in odd fronts. What this is, this kind of bare front, which is a 3-down front. So think of a 3-4 kind of look. The GT counter plays, gap scheme plays, power and counter are very good against this type of front. So they knew that they can get them in this type of front. We can run this run play. So GT counter, why that is favorable is, and you can see this in the replay, is the right guard doesn't have to reach that far for his down block, and the center doesn't as well. Like, he can just reach that 3-tech. He doesn't have to reach all the way outside to a D end. So you got nice angles for the down blocks, which get the play going. And on top of it, you have an outside linebacker that's trying to funnel everything in. And so you got the guard pulling for him and the tackle pulling up front. So it's just off the front. It's one of the more favorable plays you can run against this front. And it seemed to me that the Texans had a great tell on what the Eagles were going to get into. When they went to a 4-down front, they were running duo in a lot of lead run plays right at you. So I think they had a really good beat on that. When they passed the ball is a different story. But as far as running the ball, they nailed this GT counter a couple times, and it was really good. It's a very, like, this is the best answer for this front, and we're going to run it. And they ran it really well. And so that's why you saw a couple of really nice runs off of this.
I don't want to oversimplify this, but I think I'm trying to characterize it. So these penny fronts that we're seeing all around the league, where you have that 5-0 front with one single linebacker, makes sense in terms of motivation, right? You want to have a 5-man front that's tough to block while also having your nickel defensive back personnel in the league. We've seen a lot of this.
Yes.
Those 5-down fronts seem like more of a solution for all of the zone running that we've seen proliferate from around the league. So this is almost like a direct response to more Shanahan guys, more zone running. And that's why I think you've seen zone runs against those sort of looks be pretty inefficient, because that's exactly what teams are trying to stop. So if you can do these sort of gap scheme counter runs against these fronts, you can make a little bit more hay when you run them.
That's a great way to put it. And those, you could run zone against this, but you're really blocking it for 4 yards. I think that's the best way to put it. You can get an efficient run. You can't get the gash that you want to get.
Think about the mechanics of it. Like, think how getting outside that wide edge guy, reaching that guy from your right guard.
You're automatically cutting. No angles. You're automatically cutting it back to a linebacker that's waiting. That's what's happening. It's like, even if you do get the edge, it's still not great because of the double teams and everything. And this is even going on the flip side. Talk about angles in the run game, and I want to compliment the Eagles run game a little bit more. I know we're talking about Texas, but I want to talk about the Eagles run game real quick. They showed Kelsey pulling all those plays that Kelsey's pulling. That is because, well, one is Kelsey's an exceptional athlete. That's called a wipe technique, and it's a zone run technique. Those are all zone runs that he's pulling on, but you do it against a 2-eye or a 1-tech, so inside shade of the guard or outside shade of the center. And this is exactly what the Raiders got off after with the Texans a couple of weeks ago in a different way, but they're attacking it in the same way. And so the Eagles are able to make this adjustment. I've seen the Bills do this with Mitch Morse. That's another team that does this. So athletic centers, you'll see this. And it's all this. It's a zone run. So rather than, okay, we're going to double team against this 2-eye and then the center climbs up, it's an automatic cutback. It's a way for them to attack outside. And you only could do it with athletic centers. And that's why you see they're saying he's pulling, but it's funny. You're talking about both sides of your mouth. Yes, he is pulling, but actually it's a zone run. It's kind of
he's folding. Is
folding
more than pulling. That's what we used to call it when we used to do. I mean, it's like literally thinking about when I was playing football. Was like I played center, and we would it was full block. So like you block down, and then the center would pull around.
That's it. That's what it's called. It's folding.
You do it on zone running plays, because all you're trying to do is, all right, we have the 2-eye who's head up on me, and we have the linebacker. The center and the guard are responsible for those two people. However you do it,
as long as it gets
whatever, as long as it gets done, you just have to block those two guys.
And just create angles. That's all. That's what run game is creating the best angles, and those are the best.
But you need the players to do that.
Yes,
right? And
you need a center that can pull.
Jason Kelsey, and that's why it's so cool. And I've talked about this before. How Jeff Stoutland really empowers those guys to like find solutions in the run game. It's like, all right, you have those two guys. How do you want to block those two guys? And the fact that you have Jason Kelsey, it's very cool to watch them solve those problems. Because just think about the mechanics of it. If you have a 2-eye who's lined up straight head up on the guard, having the center overtake that and having the guard climb up to the linebacker or vice versa is really difficult.
It is.
So just make it a little bit easier on yourself.
Yep.
And that's what the Eagles consistently do.
I know. And that's what it is. It's just putting the good players in good situations. So that's all they do. And that's what this offense is. It's just going, hey, you can do this. Go do it. Go have fun. Go do it. But that's awesome. That's awesome. Like, I love football going away from this over convoluted, everybody get to a certain yardage and do it perfectly. I know I went on a whole rant about the Chargers offense this morning, but having said that, letting players play fast, and that's what they're doing. And Jason Kelce's a very fast center, and that's why he's able to do it. So it's cool. I just love, because there's not a lot of teams that let their centers do it. The Bills with Mitch Morse, or the others that I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Other ones, we did it with Rodney Hudson with the Raiders, but I'm trying to think of the other ones that do. Jeff Christie back in the day with the Vikings. But it's yeah, that's how far back my brain has to go. But it's like, really, that's what, it's a unique thing. But I love when a team majors in it, and like you can see the benefits of it, because it's just the angles that Miles Sanders was able to hit and Kenneth Gainwell a couple times. It was really cool.
All right, let's talk about the Texans a little bit, kind of as a forward-looking way. Not a lot of primetime showcase games for the Houston Texans.
Right.
So I think a lot of people got a longer look at Davis Mills than they will get for the rest of the NFL season. Where are we at on Davis Mills and Davis Mills' kind of shelf life here in Houston?
I feel kind of how I felt after reviewing him last year. I think he is a high-end backup type. That's where I'm at with him. I think he does do some things well, but as you can see tonight, creation is not one of them. Yes, the one touchdown was nice, don't get me wrong, but over a long run, over a lot of data points, creation is not his strong suit. I think he is a pre-snap operator. Post-snap, he's not that quick operator as far as athletically or mentally. But he's not bad. It's just more like, that's what he is. He doesn't create a lot. I think he's I don't think he's even like scrambled this entire season, like something of that sort. He's not a bad athlete. It's just not his game. Yeah, I would not have him as quarterback 2 of that draft class, like someone from NFL Network had him at.
That was a great list. No notes.
No, oh my God.
Because Justin Fields is number 1.
That's right. He was what? Hey, let's ask him in a week and see how that goes. But honestly, that's where I'm at with Davis Mills.
When I clicked on that and saw Fields at number 1, a part of me was just like, I can't believe there's even a person that thinks that right now. Not that I think that's totally wrong.
No.
Like, based on the way that the last couple weeks have gone, yeah. I totally understand being like, Justin Fields looks the best of the 2021 quarterbacks. Probably a little reactionary to what the last 2 weeks have looked like. But the fact that that's even like a remote possibility after the first month of the season is absolutely wild. Anyway,
he wasn't below Ian Book on that list. That was the other thing. Oh, sorry. I know we're talking about Texas. Don't talk about Davis Mills, but I'm sorry. I took notes on this game tonight. I'm trying to be better about this. The other note I had about the Texans playing the Eagles run game was that the Eagles defense playing against the Texans run game was, I noticed that the Eagles started getting to 4 down. God dang it, Nate, talk. 4 DB looks, base defense looks when the Texans were going sub, which I thought was interesting. So I was wondering if that was another answer that they would have to, like, oh my God, this team's running sub personnel, 11 personnel, and trying to like run it on us like the Texans were doing. So they're like, okay, let's get through it. Yeah, let's get big bodies on the field and make them throw it. I noticed that they did that in the second half, and I'm curious if they go into that, because they're like, man, this 5 down front's not working. So sorry, I had to get that other tidbit out there before it's
a great note though, because I think that if you're talking about things to look at moving forward with the Eagles, what sort of answers do you have for teams that are going to try to run the ball on you like this, especially with Jordan Davis out? Like, if you can't run that 5-man front with Jordan Davis, or even when you can, and teams start finding solutions for the very specific ways you can defend the run, what counters are you ultimately going to have? So them figuring that out in real time over the course of the season is worth watching. So it's a good thing to bring up.
And they're not an exotic defense. They run things really well. We run this many coverages and we do them very well. So it was like we're bringing this up. It was interesting to see that was their answer. They're like, okay, let's just get bigger bodies on the field, because we're going to run X coverage, quarters, cover 3. We're going to run that. So let's just get a bigger body to like play against the run. So I thought, because that 5 down front was not working with Jordan Davis out. It was like the Texans were gashing it like at will. So, okay, if you put that on tape, guess what other teams are going to start looking at? Every time they get in this front, we know what we're running. We know run play we're using. So it was curious that Eagles were trying to find their own answers.
It's worth noting that a lot of their personnel on defense is new. You have Jordan Davis is new. Hassan Reddick is new. Kaiser White is new. CJ Gardner-Johnson is new. You got a new corner. They have a lot of players who weren't there last year. We're still only 8 games into the season for the Eagles, who've already had their bye. They're still figuring stuff out.
I know.
Like, you still figure out how to deploy your guys and what the right solutions are, especially for somebody who like Jonathan Gannon, who kind of has this living, breathing plan on defense that isn't tethered to one particular thing. So they have a chance to really just be like, all right, let's throw some shit against the wall. Let's see what sticks. And we can kind of roll the stuff, ride the stuff moving forward. So I think it's fascinating to watch teams like that be like, all right, well, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And you start just doing that stuff over the course of the season. So something to keep an eye on for sure. So the Texans are likely going to have a top 2 pick in this draft, right? Probably. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
So I would say that we're kind of careening toward a future here where Houston drafts a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The next question becomes, who is the coaching staff that will oversee the development of this quarterback? When you watch the Texans, do you think there's anything particularly horrid about the way their offense is constructed or designed?
No, I don't.
I don't think so either. I think
actually think their
probably.
I actually think their stuff's solid. Like, I get what they're doing. Like, I understand what they're trying to do.
I just think that you look at the defense, and is this defensive system the best way to use Jalen Petrie? Is this defensive system the best way to use Derek Stingley? These guys that you drafted that are, Petrie is just a heat-seeking missile that should be all over the place, not playing the deep half all the time like you were joking about today. Having Derek Stingley be a cover 2 corner is just, it's frustrating to watch. And
it is.
So I think that becomes the next question. And this is stuff we'll have it's November 2nd, November 3rd. We'll have the next 5 months to talk about this, 4 months to talk about this. Who is the quarterback going to be? Who is the coach going to be? And what is the plan moving forward? We're in a post-Jack Easterby world. They can kind of do whatever they want to do. It's the world is your oyster, Nick Caserio.
A season 3 kind of character just got kind of like shot off screen, by the way, with Sabino. Like, that kind of, I felt like that news kind of just went boop, boop, like just on the blip, off the blip, like so quickly. They just moved on from that.
I think the most important takeaway here is that the Texans are deep in year 1 of a rebuild, right? Like, year 1 of a 4-year rebuild with all of the picks that they have, all the things they have to do. But you still have to make sure that you're developing the young guys that you've spent real draft capital on. So you can't let all this time go by without getting a better version of Derek Stingley, a better version of Jalen Petrie, where you're starting to build and grow this thing. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if Lovie Smith was one and done after this was over, because I don't think they really wanted him to be the coach anyway. So
this
now that
kick the can year, that's what.
So it's kind of hard to evaluate them. Because it's hard to evaluate the situation that some of their highly drafted players are in. Like, Kenyon Green had a rough night tonight in some moments against Javon Hargrave. He's also been okay. Like, I think he'll probably be fine, but like
he played Justin Simmons and then Javon Hargrave and back to back, or Jeffrey Simmons.
Jeffrey Simmons.
Jeffrey Simmons and Javon Hargrave in back-to-back weeks. That's a welcome to the NFL type of a November and October for him.
And so the most important thing is, who are the building blocks? Who are the building blocks going to be moving forward? But you need to make sure you're putting the building blocks in the best possible situation. And I think that becomes the biggest consideration for Houston here as they get toward the end of this thing. All right, like, we're moving into year 2. Who are the people to oversee year 2? And that is the biggest question. And then who is the quarterback going to be as we drop them into this?
That's exactly it. And they have so much ammo in this draft. I mean, they are going to have a top 3 pick anyway. You shake it with their own pick. And then who knows how the Browns finish up. Right now, the Browns would give them the 9th pick, like, if the season ended today. And then, of course, they have the 2nd rounder. They have the Browns 3rd rounder. Like, they have some decent ammo. They seem to have a infatuation with Alabama type players, like maybe. So Bryce Young probably is circled and starred for them. But no, I think that's a great point that you're bringing up with using Petrie and Stingley. Stingley is a scheme-proof corner, but you don't use. This is a oxymoron, but you don't use a scheme-proof corner in cover 2. Like cover 2 is how you hide corners. It's how you say, oh, this guy's not very athletic, but he's smart, so let's hide him a little bit. Like that's kind of what you do with cover 2 corners. So like this isn't the best way to use him. He makes it work, and he's still a good player. I can't believe there's some people complaining about his play. I think he's been playing great as a rookie corner, and like he could do it all. They had games where they ran more single high and they had him match up with really good receivers. Watch him battling Cortland Sutton. That's one of the best matchups the whole year. Sutton got him, but Sutton's a good player, but he got him too. Like he played well too. Same with Petrie. Petrie, like you said, is a heat-seeking missile. You want him in a single high type defense. You want him as the nickel. Like you want him near the ball to make plays. He's a do-it-all guy. Cover 2 was, I could tell tonight, is not his strong suit, because cover 2 for him was the basic rule for cover 2 is wide as wide, deep as deepest. Petrie was following that to a T. He was as deep as I've ever seen a cover 2 corner or cover 2 safety with no routes coming at him. That dude was like 40 yards back. And I'm like, what do you do? Guy, like that's why Dallas Goedert on those corner routes, like Fitzpatrick was getting after the corners. I was like, tell the safety to come up. There's nothing threatening him. He's just hanging out back there. But that's not his game. His game, if you watch him in college, even his best plays against the Bears earlier this year, it's near the ball. It's as a blitzer. It's covering tight ends. It's as a slot guy. It's single high near the ball. So it's just, like you said, it's just getting these guys in the right spots. But I do think those two are keepers. Obviously, they swung and hit on both of those guys, which is good. Those are building blocks for a team that needs as many as possible.
All right. That's all we got for tonight. If you guys want to make sure that you're checking out our Week 9 preview, we dug into a lot of fun stuff. What's wrong with the Chargers offense? Talked about Tua, what he's doing well, what the Dolphins are doing well. Rams, Bucks, what their outlook is both this week and then moving forward. Gave some love to the Titans defense, which Kirk was just like not acknowledging that the Titans have the best run defense in the league today. We're talking about why the Texans struggled to run the ball against the Titans last week. So it's like, well, they couldn't run the ball against the Titans. It's like, well, the Titans run defense is excellent. He
was better at this at Mississippi State.
The first drive when Stingley and Petrie were in like the same shot. And it's like, oh, he's got to be loving this. Like these guys are rookies. He just watched them last year. And then there was a moment where Atlanta Dickerson blocked Christian Harris, which is, oh my God, just knocking them all out. Just line them up and knock them down.
What did he say? He's like, he had experience with that at Alabama. He said after Dickerson did that. No, the one that got me, oh my God, I already forgot it. But he was talking about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles were using tempo. And he goes, and Hurts has a lot of experience with this from college. Like he has been running tempo all season and last year as well. It's like, come on, man. Like he's played a couple football games since Oklahoma and that Alabama freshman year game that you did. Like, but I know I love that though. That's like my weekly highlights, like the bingo card of how many colleges he can name.
All right. That's all we got for tonight. Please go check out the Week 9 preview.
Whopper.
It's November, man. And I'm sure you're just a mess right now. Like your kid could be born at any single moment here. I can't imagine what your headspace is at this point. We're halfway into the season. My brain is like a bowl of tapioca pudding. I can't even imagine how you're doing. So go get yourself a Whopper. Do whatever it is you're going to do over there. We will be back on Sunday night. As always, appreciate you guys listening. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that. We do these every single week. Maybe not next week because you might be in some sort of hospital somewhere having a child delivered. So we'll figure that out when we get there. Until then, appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.